Let me ask you something. Have you ever walked away from someone, maybe a relationship, a friendship, or even a family dynamic, and instead of feeling relieved, you felt a crushing wave of guilt, almost as if you betrayed them, when in reality you were just trying to save yourself? That guilt can feel heavier than the relationship ever did. But here's the truth. Sometimes walking away is not weakness. It's the bravest act of love you'll ever show yourself. When you walk away from someone and feel guilty, the first thought that often crosses your mind is, did I do something wrong? That internal dialogue can be so loud that it drowns out the very reason you left in the first place. But here's the thing, guilt doesn't always stem from wrongdoing. More often than not, guilt comes from your heart, from the part of you that cares so deeply about how others feel that you take responsibility for their pain, even when it's not yours to carry. Think about it. The people who feel the most guilt after ending a relationship or walking away from a connection are usually the ones who gave the most to it. You loved, you tried, you compromised, you invested your time, your energy, maybe even years of your life. So when you step back, your compassionate nature interprets the other person's hurt as your fault. That's what empaths, givers, and people with big hearts do. They personalize the pain of others. But the truth is, just because someone is hurt by your decision doesn't mean you did something wrong. It means they're experiencing the consequences of a situation that wasn't sustainable anymore. Sometimes we mistake caring for obligation. We think that because we love someone, or because we once made promises, we're supposed to stay forever, no matter what the cost is to us. But love isn't meant to be a life sentence. Love is meant to grow, to expand, to uplift. And if it reaches a point where it drains you, where it robs you of your peace, or where it compromises your sense of self, then walking away is not betrayal, it's an act of honesty. Yet guilt convinces us otherwise. It whispers that we're abandoning someone, that we're selfish, that we should have tried harder. But here's the irony. The very fact that you feel guilty shows your goodness. It shows that you weren't careless, that you weren't cold-hearted, that you didn't just discard someone without thought. Guilt is the byproduct of your empathy. You're not the villain here. You're the person who cared enough to feel conflicted even when you knew leaving was necessary. If anything, your guilt is proof of your integrity, not your failure. And that's something you need to remind yourself when that heavy feeling creeps in. Walking away is one of the hardest choices you'll ever make. Not because it isn't the right one, but because it forces you to face the illusion that all relationships are supposed to last forever. We're conditioned to believe that if something ends, it's a failure, and if we walk away, it means we didn't try hard enough. But in reality, not every relationship is built to last a lifetime. Some are meant to arrive at a specific season of our lives, teach us what we needed to learn, and then leave us with a choice. Stay in a cycle that no longer serves us, or walk away and protect our future peace. The truth is, staying in a relationship that no longer nourishes you is like living in a house with cracked walls and a leaking roof. At first, you convince yourself you can fix it. You put buckets under the leaks, patch the cracks, rearrange the furniture so you don't notice the flaws as much. But deep down, you know the foundation is crumbling, and you can't keep rebuilding a structure that isn't meant to stand. Walking away is acknowledging that the home you tried to build with someone isn't safe anymore. Not for you, not for them. There's a false heroism in staying when staying only causes harm. People often wear endurance like a badge of honor. Look how much I tolerated. Look how long I stayed. But endurance without happiness is not strength. It's suffering in disguise. And suffering doesn't earn you love, respect, or fulfillment. It only robs you of time, energy, and the chance to experience a love that is actually mutual and healthy. The difficult part is that sometimes the other person doesn't see it that way. They may call you selfish, accuse you of giving up, or make you believe you're heartless for leaving. But what they see as abandonment is actually you refusing to abandon yourself. Protecting your mental, emotional, and sometimes even physical well-being is not selfish. It's survival. And here's the deeper truth. Walking away is not only the healthiest choice for you, it can also be the healthiest choice for them. Because when you remain in a broken dynamic, you enable both of you to stay stuck. You shield them from the reality that change is necessary, and you deny yourself the chance to heal. By leaving, you create space for them to confront themselves and for you to rediscover who you are outside of that relationship. One of the hardest truths to face is that guilt is temporary, but regret has the power to haunt you for years, even decades. Guilt comes like a storm. It's heavy, it shakes you, it makes you question yourself. But like all storms, it eventually passes. Regret, on the other hand, is a slow, steady erosion of your spirit. It lingers like a shadow, following you into every future relationship, every decision, every moment of reflection where you think back and ask, "Why didn't I leave sooner?" When you choose to walk away, yes, guilt will rise up. You'll wonder if you were too harsh, if you abandoned someone who needed you, if maybe things could have changed with more patience or more love. That inner dialogue is inevitable because you're human, but here's the difference. That guilt softens with time. It begins to ease as you rediscover your strength, your independence, your ability to smile again without forcing it. One day you wake up and realize the heaviness isn't as loud as it used to be. The guilt fades into the background because you know deep down you acted out of necessity, not cruelty, but regret is merciless. Regret shows up years later when you're reflecting on your life and you realize you stayed far longer than your heart wanted to. Regret comes when you look at the version of yourself you lost while trying to make a broken relationship work, and you wish you could get that time, that energy, that spark back. Regret comes when you're older and you realize you sacrificed your peace for someone else's comfort, and in doing so, you abandoned yourself. That kind of pain is not temporary. It stains the timeline of your life. The irony is that guilt tricks us into staying. We think, if I leave, I'll feel guilty, and I don't want to carry that weight. So we endure the pain of staying, believing it's the lesser burden. But what we don't realize is that by avoiding guilt in the short term, we're building regret for the long term. We're making choices based on fear rather than courage. And every time we silence the voice inside us that says, "This isn't right anymore," we're carving out regret's future home in our hearts. So yes, walking away hurts. Yes, guilt will visit, but guilt is survivable, regret is not. Guilt fades, regret remains. And when you're faced with that choice, carry the guilt of leaving or the regret of staying too long. The braver, wiser path will always be to accept the guilt, knowing it will eventually heal, rather than let regret follow you like a ghost you can never shake. From the time we are young, many of us are taught to believe that choosing ourselves is selfish. We're told that love means sacrifice, that commitment means endurance, and that if you really care about someone, you put their needs before your own, always. So when the moment comes where you have to walk away for the sake of your own well-being, that conditioning kicks in and tells you you're being selfish, you're abandoning them, you're not strong enough to stay. But the truth is the opposite. Choosing yourself is not selfish. It's one of the most courageous and self-respecting decisions you can ever make. There is a big difference between selfishness and self-preservation. Selfishness is about taking from others to benefit yourself. Self-preservation is about protecting your mental, emotional, and physical health from being drained beyond repair. When you choose yourself, you're not taking anything away from anyone. You're simply refusing to keep pouring from a cup that's already empty. And how can you truly love, give, or nurture anyone else when you're running on fumes? Protecting your energy and peace is not only necessary for you, it's also the only way you can ever show up authentically in future relationships. Many people confuse endurance with love. They think that if they can just tolerate the pain a little longer, endure the arguments a little more, or silence their needs a little better, then maybe that's what it means to be loving. But what they don't realize is that endurance without joy is not love, it's self-abandonment. Real love doesn't require you to erase yourself to keep someone else comfortable. Real love honors boundaries, respects individuality, and grows in freedom, not control. By choosing yourself and walking away, you set an example, whether the other person recognizes it or not, of what love should actually look like. You teach them, perhaps silently, that relationships cannot thrive without mutual respect, without balance, without two people both showing up equally. And you remind yourself that you are not here to be someone's crutch or emotional punching bag. You are here to live a life that feels meaningful and fulfilling to you. When you walk away, people may accuse you of being selfish because they benefited from your self-sacrifice. They were comfortable with you giving endlessly while receiving little in return, but their disappointment doesn't make your decision wrong. It only reveals how much they relied on your willingness to shrink. Choosing yourself doesn't mean you don't care about others. It means you finally care about yourself enough not to disappear for them. And that, at the end of the day, is one of the purest, strongest acts of love you can ever demonstrate. Love for yourself, which will ripple outward into everything and everyone you touch in the future. Walking away will never feel easy, and the guilt that follows often makes us question everything. But when you take a step back and truly reflect, you realize that guilt is not evidence of wrongdoing. It's evidence of your heart. It shows that you cared, that you valued what you had, and that you were brave enough to make a choice that hurt in the short term, but will heal you in the long term. The very fact that you feel guilt proves you are not cold or careless. It proves you are human and that you carry compassion within you. And compassion, when directed inward as much as outward, is what allows you to heal and grow. The reality is that some relationships are not meant to last, no matter how hard we fight for them. Staying for the sake of avoiding guilt only prolongs suffering for both people involved. Walking away is not quitting. It's choosing peace over chaos, growth over stagnation, and truth over denial. It's understanding that love is not proven through endless endurance, but through authenticity and balance. Sometimes the greatest act of love is knowing when to let go, not only for your own well-being, but also to give the other person the space to confront themselves and create their own growth. What we must remember is that guilt fades, but regret leaves a scar that can never be erased. If you choose to stay in situations that break you, just to avoid feeling guilty, you risk building a life full of regret, a life where your needs, your joy, and your identity were sacrificed in silence. Guilt may whisper that you are wrong for leaving, but regret screams that you betrayed yourself by staying. And when it comes to choosing between guilt and regret, guilt is the lighter burden. It passes with time, but regret hardens into a story you carry for the rest of your life. That is why choosing yourself, even in the face of guilt, is always the braver and wiser choice. So when you feel guilty for walking away, remind yourself that choosing yourself is not selfish. It's survival. It's an act of courage to say, I matter too, my peace matters, my happiness matters. One day that guilt will soften, and what will remain is gratitude. Gratitude for the strength you had, gratitude for the lessons learned, and gratitude that you chose a path that leads you closer to who you are meant to be. Walking away may hurt today, but tomorrow it becomes the reason you find freedom, clarity, and a love that doesn't ask you to sacrifice yourself just to keep it alive. Thank you so much for giving me your time and energy today. If this message spoke to you, remember, you are not alone in feeling the weight of guilt after walking away. We've all been there in some form, and the strength it takes to choose yourself deserves to be honored, not questioned. I hope these words gave you clarity, comfort, and maybe even the courage to see that guilt doesn't define you. It only reminds you of the depth of your heart. Keep reminding yourself that walking away isn't a failure, it's a beginning. If this resonated with you, share it with someone who might need the reminder too. Your support, your presence, and your willingness to listen mean more than you know. So, until next time, take care of yourself, choose peace over guilt, and never forget that your happiness matters. Thank you once again, and goodbye for now.